The new channel. See the new. The new channel. See the new. The views, opinions, and insights expressed in the following show are those of the hosts, producers, guests, and viewers. They do not necessarily reflect the position of the channel. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to the new channel, your daily source for live stream inspiration. My name is Carmine Ortega and this is U-Turn. Good morning, U-Turners. How are you today? It's a rainy morning here in Manila. I wonder how it is in other parts of the country. So I'd like to say hello to our friends in Clark and Subic, also in Cebu City and in Santa Rosa, Laguna. Come on, guys. How about a shout out? Say hello to us and we'll say hello back to you. Okay, so right now I would like to announce the winner of last week's Share a Quote. Last week's quote was, hang on, you can't hire someone else to do your push-ups for you. That quote is by Jim Rohn. And the winner of our portable blender is Marianne Manalo from San Pablo City, Laguna. So you are getting the USB blender. Yay! All right. So today's quote, I'll share it shortly. Okay. So today's quote is, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. Okay. Once again, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. That's our quote for today. And if you share our live stream and leave a comment, share your thoughts on what the quote means, you could win this gift. Can you see it? Okay. So it's there. So it's a hair straightener for men. That's the box. Now I'm going to show you the item itself. There it is. All right. So it's a hair straightener and it's designed for short hair. So it's really for men. If you want to have straighter hair, you can use this. So you know what to do. Please share our live stream and leave your thoughts via comments on our quote for today. If it's meant to be, it's up to me. Okay. All right. So, hi, Rena. How are you? Thank you for joining us. So she just joined us. Please stay tuned. We have a very special guest. Right. I'm sharing that with everybody. We have a very special guest. Well, all our guests are special. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here. But one unique thing about him is he's from a different time zone. From a different time zone. Okay, so of course that means he's also from a different place. And to give you a clue, I'm speaking in purely English right now, right? So our guest is from North America, 12 hours difference. He's from Ontario, Canada, a good friend and colleague. And I will share more about him in a little bit. Let us welcome Mr. Forrest Willett.
Hello, everyone, and thank you very much. And it's a rainy and humid night here in tiny Ontario, Canada.
Oh, okay. So yes, Forrest is from Tiny. It's a town or city in Ontario. It's called Tiny, and there's a 12-hour difference between Manila and Ontario. So it's been rainy here as well, Forrest. But we're just starting to get into the rainy season. I believe it's summer over there.
Yes, summer has just begun. I live 2 hours north of Toronto, and it's just beginning to, the leaves are coming out on the trees, and the beautiful weather is just beginning.
Okay, all right. And as early as now, I'd like to thank you for joining us, for agreeing to guest in our show. It's late for you. It's 11 p.m., just past 11 p.m. where Forrest is. So we appreciate you staying up here to join us so you can share your story.
Thank you.
Right. So Forrest was just telling me earlier that it's been like 2 years since he stayed up this late.
Yes, it's been a long time, and usually I'm in bed around 9 o'clock.
Okay, you go to bed early. Right.
Yeah.
So for the benefit of our viewers, I met Forrest in a seminar that I attended. I think that was in 2016. Am I right? That was
Yes.
in 2016. Forrest was one of the facilitators in that workshop, and I benefited so much from that workshop, and it helped me make, U-turns, little U-turns in my life that resulted in, a more major turnaround. So I'm very thankful for that workshop. And because of that too, I became a Success Principles facilitator as well, just like Forrest. So that was a really inspiring, very special day for me.
Excellent.
All right. So now we will hear from Forrest and his amazing turnaround story. That's what we're all about here on U-Turn Anyway. Okay, so we'll let Forrest tell us. We'll start with your childhood, Forrest. Can you share a little bit about your childhood, your growing up years?
Yes, I can share. If I shared the story of my childhood and I asked people to close their eyes and visualize my childhood as I share it, a lot of times right now on social media, people are allowing social media to steal their joy. So what I would ask all your viewers right now is to close your eyes and just visualize the story as I share it, the story of my rich childhood. So if you close your eyes, you can visualize much greater than with your eyes open. So growing up, we had several homes, many, many homes. We traveled constantly, not just in the summer, we traveled all year round. My dad had more cars than Justin Bieber. The cost of heat was not an issue in our home. We could leave the doors and windows open all we wanted. One of our homes had a 30-foot cabin cruiser out back. And I'm grateful for my mom and dad for the gift they gave me of love, kindness, compassion, and empathy. And oh yeah, I was rich. And before you open your eyes, I want you to just think about how you feel about me right now. You might think, wow, I grew up in the same kind of home as he did. And you might think, what a jerk. I didn't get on this show tonight to listen to this. Whatever it is that you're feeling, I want you to know that you've created those feelings. So I also want to share with you two things. Everything I shared with you is true. And the second thing is, whatever you're feeling inside right now, you've created it. And we do this every single day on social media. So this time I'll share the story again, and I'll paint the picture for you. You see, growing up, we had several homes. Many, many homes. I didn't say they were nice homes. We grew up in very poor homes, as you can see in the picture. We traveled constantly because we moved and moved and moved. I did not spend one whole year in the same school. We moved constantly. My dad had more cars than Justin Bieber. I didn't say they were nice cars. We had the type of vehicles that were type of yards. There was junk all around the yard, cars up on blocks. The cost of heat was not an issue at our home. You see, we were the kids who had to cut and split the firewood to feed the wood stove and heat the house. So if we left the doors and windows open, it meant more work for us. One of our homes had a 30-foot cabin cruiser in the backyard. I'd never said it was in the water. It had a tree growing through it, and my brothers and I used to hide out inside there. And I'm grateful for my mom and dad for the gift they gave me of love, kindness, compassion, and empathy. You see, I grew up in an extremely violent and abusive home, And for that reason, my mother left when I was 6 years old, and she never returned, not even to this day. But the gift they gave me was how not to treat another human being. And I'm so grateful to have been given that gift at such a young age. I know people who are 50 and 60 years old who don't know how to treat other people. And I look at it as a gift. And yeah, I was rich. I was rich with imagination, not with money. You see, I could get in those old cars and pretend I'm driving away, and get in the old boats and pretend I was going off to faraway places. You see, I used my imagination to escape the reality I was living in. And that was my childhood. And a lot of times what happens now in social media, people read Facebook posts and believe all the things that they're hearing, but they don't get the background story. So I wish that people would get the story before they start comparing themselves with others, because a lot of time that steals our joy.
All right. Wow, that was your childhood in pictures. So, can you tell us, did you blame anyone? Would you say you were unhappy, or your imagination was your escape, helped you cope with the situation?
It was my imagination. I thought there must be something better. And, I have brothers who went the other way, who were
Mhm.
always angry and upset and felt that life gave them a bad deal and just mad at the world.
Mhm.
Where I would try to see the bright side of things and always
Mhm.
to look forward and to see the good in things.
Mhm. Okay. All right. And so you grew up and you went to school, you excuse me, went into business, right? How did that turn out? Despite the background, what were you doing for work and business?
My wife and I, we bought and sold real estate, and then we opened up check cashing payday loan stores, and we had 7 stores across Ontario with 23 employees.
Mm-hmm.
So life was really good. Uh, we
Yeah.
we turned things around from not being good and growing up poor to becoming very successful.
Mm-hmm. What was your secret, to rise from that background, that kind of life growing up, into having a good business, right? Having several stores across town or across Ontario. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not a city,
across the
province,
province.
right?
Yeah,
Across the province,
yeah.
right? What was your secret? What worked for you?
The secret there was treating people well, and people first, and the money will follow. You treat people with kindness and respect, and treat them like family. Treat your customers like family, and the money will follow. And so many people have it backwards, and they think, "Oh, I'm going to make money. I'm going to make money."
Hmm.
But that's all they focus on, and they don't focus on the people and treating them right. So if you
Hmm.
treat people right, they will be your customer forever.
Hmm. Okay. Um, so that wasn't even the turnaround, right? The big turnaround in your life. You were doing well. It was a good, you had a good business, good family with you, but that wasn't even, the big story in your life, correct?
No, that's right. Uh, and the big story came when, I thought I had the whole world in my hands. That was my thought. And then one day, I had my car for sale, and the gentleman wanted to try it out. And I thought, to be successful, I need a bigger car, a nicer car, and I'm going to upgrade. And
Hmm.
so the gentleman decided, he wanted to take it for a drive, and I sat in the passenger seat, and he was speaking on the cell phone to his son at the same time. And you can see what happened in the next video.
Okay. All right. So we will show we will show a video of Forrest shortly, but we will be going on break soon. So hang in there, stay tuned. You will see what unfolded after Forrest uh, put his car up for sale. And like he said, he wanted to upgrade, and therefore he needed to let go of the older car. So the story will resume after we go on break. Stay tuned.
We rise as one. Leave the pain behind. For the future is bright. Know that we are here to help you rise again. The new channel. See the new. We rise as one. Leave the pain behind. For the future is bright. Know that we are here to help you rise again. The new channel. See the new.
We're back on U-Turn on the new channel. As you know, U-Turn is about sharing people's stories of, stories of turning their lives around for the better. And you just saw Forrest's video, and he's back here to tell us more about the video. Welcome back, Forrest.
Thank you. You could see in the slides what happened was I was sharing earlier that, I thought I want to get a bigger car, a nicer car, and that's what successful people do. And I put the car up for sale, and a gentleman wanted to take a test drive, and I gave him the keys and sat in the passenger seat. And then he was driving at a high rate of speed and left the road. And my life changed in seconds. And as you see in the slide there, that Mike Tyson has a saying that everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face. And every one of us watching this video right now either have had a punch in the face or will receive one time in our lives. And the punch in the face you might receive could be a loss of a job, a loss of a loved one. Maybe the job you wanted didn't work out for you, or you didn't get the promotion. Those are punches in the face that we get every day. And we have to decide, are you going to let that keep you down, or are you going to get back up and move forward? And for me, I let that car accident keep me down for a long time. And I had a plan. I thought life was great until this punch in the face of this car accident happened for me. I woke up 10 days later in a trauma center. I didn't know who I was, where I was. I didn't know my wife or my son. My whole life changed within seconds. I was diagnosed with a catastrophic brain injury, which meant I had a permanent loss of 55% or more of the use of my mental and emotional abilities. So I went through many operations, 14 different operations. I had physiotherapy, learning how to go from a wheelchair to a walker to walking on my own. Speech therapy, occupational therapy, learning how to speak, how to walk and talk. I went through many drugs, depression pills, anxiety pills, sleeping pills, many pills. And there's so many pills I was on, and I was suffered with depression and anxiety, and I felt that I was the only one that was feeling those feelings, and it was I didn't realize everyone around me felt it. When you're going through depression, that it affects everyone you're around, your family, your work coworkers, everyone.
Okay, so you mentioned, you suffered a major brain injury, and it affected 50 to 55% of what you could do.
Yes.
How did that translate into, daily tasks, things that you typically did? What could you still do but not do anymore, but also not do anymore?
Well, I really, what became my full-time job was getting better. I could not go to work anymore because my work involved counting money, dealing with customers. So I had anger issues. I had fatigue problems, memory problems, and it affected my whole life in a negative way, more than I ever realized. And it was a huge change in life because, we all think we're going to do so many amazing things until you get that punch in the face. And when you receive it, it's hard to deal with, and it takes a long time to recover.
Right. That's a really good way of putting it. When you get a punch in the face, it's something that you never really expect, especially if things are going well for you. When things are going well for you, you expect certain things, and then something like that happens. So you couldn't count money effectively, right? And that affected your business. What happened to your businesses, your several stores, shops?
We ended up selling them over the next few years. My wife was running them, and she took over my position. and she was trying to care for me and care for the business, which that didn't work either. So we ended up selling the businesses,
Mm-hmm.
and we
Okay.
sold them all off in 2008.
Mm-hmm. And at this time, how young was your son?
At the time of the accident, he was 2 years old, and yeah, it was a very difficult time for him. So I had so many operations, and um, I couldn't pick him up. I couldn't play with him to do the things that other parents could do with their children, and that was a very difficult time.
And how long was the medication, the therapy,
Uh,
struggling to get well, to get better? And what kind of therapies did you have?
um, so I went through physiotherapy, learning how to reuse your range of motions, how to raise your arm, how to shave, how to bathe yourself. Um, Therapy from going from a wheelchair to a walker to a cane. Then speech therapy was 3 days a week for 5.5 years, learning how to speak, how to read and write, how to count, everything, just as if you're a child all over again.
So you really had to relearn reading and writing, because when you look at a book or a magazine, nothing would register.
That's right. If you've ever known anyone who's had a stroke, that's the best way to explain it, is that you know what you want to say, it's all here, but it won't come out of your mouth. And so I would point at a refrigerator and say, it's in and I know in my head it's a refrigerator, but the words won't come out.
Okay.
And so it's very frustrating.
Okay. All right. Um, how about relating to other people around you? You know, talking to neighbors, talking to friends. How were your relationships during this time? I understand that this was a very difficult time for you, and you knew it, right? You were aware of it.
Absolutely, I was aware of it, but I was surrounded by so many, yet I felt all alone. And that was a very lonely feeling, that you feel that people don't understand what you're going through, and especially when you can't express how you're feeling. It's a really lonely time, and I didn't want to open up, and I didn't want to share with people. So I became almost like a hermit, where I just wanted to stay in my house, in my little cocoon, and just stay by myself, spend a lot of time by myself. And I just went into a deep depression, and I thought that if people would just leave me alone and stay away for a while, everything would be okay. And that was the wrong thing to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll talk about how you got out of that in a little bit. But let's go back to the video. Like, why is there a video in the first place? The one that we saw earlier.
Yes. So a lot of people asked me to share the story of how I got from where I was to where I wanted to be, and that took a long time. So the reason I made that video was in 2012, Oprah Winfrey came to Canada for the first time, and so they had a contest that said, if you can make a video that inspires people like Oprah, you can win a trip for two to the Oprah show. So my mother-in-law, she asked me many times, oh, could you make a video? And I thought, what are the chances? Why would someone want to see a video about brain injury? And so she bugged me so much. I had a friend ask me or help me make this video, and they phoned one day and said, you won the trip to do the Oprah show. And I said, thank you very much. And they said, that's it? It's Oprah? I didn't know I was supposed to get excited. I've never seen an Oprah show until I actually seen her in real life.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to make my mother-in-law's dream come true and bring her to the Oprah Winfrey show.
So you and your mother-in-law went
Yeah.
to the Oprah show in LA.
No, it was here in Toronto.
Oh, okay.
It's the first
All
time
right.
she came to Canada. Yes.
And you had little awareness or no awareness at all how big the Oprah show was.
No, none at all. No,
Hmm.
no.
And what were your thoughts then when when you went to the Oprah show? Were you interviewed by Oprah or you were just in the audience?
No, just in the audience, and we got to meet her, and that was just for a very brief introduction.
Okay. All right. And at what point was this, this video that you created? How many years after the accident?
That was, I'm going to say, about 8 years after the accident.
Okay.
So
And
a good amount of time.
okay. And by then you've started to work on yourself, right? For the better at that
Yes,
point.
yes,
How?
started to recover, and the doctor said that after 18 to 24 months, I would plateau. So
Hmm.
you keep going up and up, and then you'll just go on a straight line. But after the 24 months, I was still climbing that mountain, and I just kept going up and up and up.
Okay. All right. Wow. Okay, that must be really tough. And at this point, were you were you thinking of other people or really just yourself? You were there in your little world, right?
Yeah, and for the first few years, I was just thinking of myself, and I describe my depression was my biggest expression uh, of an ego, because
Hmm.
it was just me, 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 poor me, me. Oh, my bad things happened to me, and poor me. And so when you only focus on yourself, that's when the depression became worse. And I didn't realize that once I started to focus on others, the depression lifted. And I focused on helping others, and that's when the depression uh, started to lift and go away. But
Wow.
as long as you're focused solely on yourself, it's so easy to fall into depression.
And how was your wife Julie dealing with all of this? Um, you were there, but you also weren't there.
Yeah, I wasn't there as a father or a husband, and so it was a very difficult time for everyone. And that's how I came up with the title of my book was "Baseballs Don't Bounce." It was my
Mhm.
son's 7th birthday, and his friends gave him a package, and he ripped it open. And he threw it was a ball in a glove. He threw the ball on the ground, and it just went thud and rolled in the dirt. And he picked it up again and threw the ball down, and it just went thud. And his friends shouted, "Baseballs don't bounce!" And oh my God, my heart just exploded, and I had to go in the house. I started to cry because I thought, wow, I've never thrown a ball with him. Someone else taught him how to ride a bike. Somebody else taught him how to skate. And I spent more time with my poor me thoughts and my depression than I did with my son. And so that was the day I decided I have to take 100% responsibility for my life and turn my life around.
Okay. And at this was 5 years since your son was just 5 years after,
Yes, that's right.
right? Okay. And that was the beginning of your turnaround. Now, in the next segment, Forrest will describe how he actually turned his life around after a devastating accident and a very difficult recovery from it. He did survive the accident, but then he went through depression for several years. So, yeah, when we get back, he will tell us more about it.
The new channel. See the new. The new channel. See the new.
Welcome back to U-Turn on the new channel. All right, it's time to greet some people. Mabin, good morning. Everyone is saying good morning. Why are you all saying the same thing? Good morning. Mabin, Mick, Monica, Kasaya, Jera, Villanueva, Denado. Everyone is saying good morning. There's nothing else. Jan, N.E., and Saito. Oh, well, he's saying something different. Start over again. The best is yet to come. Are you an insider, Saito? All right, and then we have some interpretations as early as now from Friti Nef Alinsod. All right, goody. You could win the hair straightener for men. All right, so just to give emphasis, okay, U-Turn is all about sharing people's inspiring stories, because that's what we want to do, to inspire people using real stories from real people who have turned their lives around. And I hope you appreciate this. I believe that we need this more than ever in our lives. Okay, so our guest Forrest was saying the more he focused on himself, right? It was the biggest expression of an ego, but the more he focused on himself, like thinking me, the more depressed he got. But when he started to focus on other people, that was when his life started to turn around. So that's really something to think about. And I thank Forrest for sharing that with us. Before we went on break, you were saying, it came to you that you never did anything with your son since the accident, right? Didn't teach him how to ride a bike. And then he was trying to make the baseball bounce, okay, but it wouldn't bounce. And that, hit you hard, and you went into your room and you cried. Just so you know, most Filipinos have not held a baseball, because
Oh, okay.
we're not baseball folks here. We we love basketball, but of course people here know that basketballs do bounce, but just an FYI to everyone, baseballs don't. And that's what happened during that moment for Forrest. So you went into your room and you cried.
Yes, and I realized that I was just focusing on myself and no one else. And that was the day that I made a decision to turn my life around. And about a year before that, there was Jack Canfield came on TV, and I was in a really bad spot in my life, and I was struggling with depression. And they said, coming up next on breakfast television is Jack Canfield, the co-creator of Chicken Soup for the Soul, and the creator of this new book, The Success Principles, how to get from where you want to be to how to get from where you are to where you want to be. And I was lying there in bed, and I thought, I don't know where I want to be, but I don't want to be here anymore. And, he went on to say, what would you do if there were no limitations, if anything were possible? And as I was lying there in bed, and I thought, what would I do? And not only would I overcome this depression and anxiety, I would help others do that. And not only would I learn to read and write, I would become an author like this guy on TV and write books. And I would also learn to speak fluently again and become a speaker and share my story around the world. And so I bought the book, and with the help of my speech therapist, it took me a year and a half to read the book. And fast forward 10 years, my life has totally changed. And, I've got off all medications since 2007, 100%, no more depression pills, anxiety pills. I became a #1 best-selling author. I received the Lieutenant Governor's Award for community volunteering and sharing my story with the world. I've been able to travel the world, and in 2016, I was named one of the top 50 difference makers in North America by Definers magazine, along with Jack Canfield.
Wow. Congratulations. That's amazing achievement, especially considering what happened, during the previous years. Now let's backtrack a little bit. So when you saw, the book featured on TV, and that got you sitting up, right? You were lying on the sofa, I think, and you sat up because it really got your attention, especially the part that goes how to get from where you are to where you want to be.
Yes.
What were your thoughts right then?
Well, my thought was, I don't know where I want to be, but I don't want to be here anymore. I was just at that point in my life where I felt like I was a burden on everyone, and my life was hopeless, and there was nowhere to turn and no options for me. Until this man came on TV and speaking about these principles. If you apply these principles in your life, it doesn't matter your current circumstance, your background, or what you've been through in life. If you apply these principles, you can totally transform your life. And I'm living proof that it's true. You can.
So when you sat up, was that the first time that you really wanted something for yourself? Because you were just, I don't know, floating in a way over the years. And was that the first time that you categorically wanted something?
Yes, it was the first time I had hope in years. And, all the doctors and experts told me that my life would not be very productive. Don't get my hopes up. Don't try to think you're going to go back to doing great things anymore. Just be happy that you're alive and you're breathing. And for me, I accepted that, and I didn't want to, but because they're experts, I believe that. And now I realize that, you're not stuck. A lot of times we think that we're stuck, but we're just afraid to do what's next. We're afraid to take that next step.
That is such a downer. It's a powerful thing to say, but in a downer way. If doctors tell you, experts tell you, no, you're not going to be productive like you used to be, you just have to accept it, you're going to be like this more or less forever. So I guess the tip there is, don't believe it. Believe something better. Believe in a higher, better vision of the future.
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So it took you a year and a half to read the book. And what did your therapist say about that? Like, out of the blue, you suddenly want to read a book that was this thick, right? I think it's like three times your book.
Yes.
I mean, in terms of thickness.
Yes, it's like a size of a telephone book. It was so thick. And at the time I was reading books called Bernstein Bears, and those are children's books, very thin books. And those were this type of books I was learning to read at that time. And then all of a sudden I wanted to read, a book this thick. It's, 500 and some pages. And she helped me, and it took a long time. And, it's just unbelievable what can happen after you start applying these principles.
What did your therapist say? Like, no, you couldn't read this. It's you can't read this. It's too much for you. Did she say anything like that?
No, she supported me, and in the beginning they thought that it was too much of a book to take on. So they thought, we don't want you to start reading the book and then get discouraged and not be able to read it, because it's such a big book. So then when I said, I really want to learn these principles and what this guy spoke about on TV, because I want to change my life. I don't want to be in this position anymore. So I was
All
willing
right.
to do anything to get out of that position. And it's just like people in life, if you're hungry enough, you'll eat anything. Many kids say, "Well, I don't like that. I'm not eating that. I'm not hungry." Well, if they get hungry enough, they'll eat anything. And I was hungry for knowledge and hungry to learn. So I would have eaten anything.
Right. Okay. So, you saw the book, you read it, and then that moment, with baseballs don't bounce happened. Then what happened next in your life?
So then I wrote this book, and I shared with Jack Canfield how his book changed my life, and he invited me out to Los Angeles, and I took a training course with him, and then I started teaching the course with him. And I thought, wow, you want to work with little Forrest from tiny Ontario? And he said yes. And I was so amazed. It was just like something out of a dream or a movie. 10 years ago, I could not even spell New York Times bestseller. And now my story is featured in this New York Times bestseller, The Success Principles, 10th anniversary edition, with over 1 million copies in print. And my story is the foreword. It's the largest story in the book. And like Jack says, it sets the tone for what is possible when people apply these principles.
Wow, that's so powerful. From not knowing how to read or write or speak properly, you went to writing a book, and now you're an international motivational speaker. And you you don't have just one book, you have 2 or 3 books, right?
Yes, I have a children's book, and my latest book called Finding Forrest. And my children's book is called 12 Hugs to Happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And it's to share with children that it's okay to talk about your feelings, and help them overcome anxiety and loneliness. Yeah.
Why 12 hugs? What's with a 12?
So Virginia Satir was a family therapist. She said you need 4 hugs a day for survival, 8 hugs a day for maintenance, and 12 hugs a day for growth, to grow spiritually and physically, and to just expand your life. And since I started getting 12 hugs a day years ago, um, my life is just full of joy. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I get so many hugs, and up until this pandemic happened, now I'm not allowed to hug. So for someone like me who loves hugs, it's very heartbreaking not being able to hug people at this time.
Right. I can imagine. So everyone, Forrest is recommending 12 hugs a day. That's the good dosage. That's the best, right? If you can get 12 hugs a day, do it, and give hugs as well. I've been a recipient of Forrest's hugs during the workshop that we had in 2016. There was a moment when people went around to give hugs, and Forrest's hug is, tall as he is, he can go down and get down and, hug you if you're a little short. And it's a nice, long, warm hug. A lot of people got teary-eyed just going around and hugging, even strangers. And what you have in common then is just being participants in that workshop. That was a remarkable moment during that workshop.
So
All right. Okay, so now, yes, you have the books, you have your speaking career, and congratulations. What else are you doing? What else are you focusing your energies on?
I do a lot of volunteering, and I volunteer at long-term care homes, retirement homes, and I
Mhm.
do a lot of volunteering just in my community. I'm still buying and selling real estate and
Mhm.
speaking and traveling up until like I said, this pandemic. So in May, I was to speak in British Columbia, Canada, then in New York, and then in Los Angeles, and everything was canceled with everything that's going on in our world right now.
Right.
So
What what do you talk about when you go to visit these elderly homes? Like what are you trying to fill? What are you trying to, help them with?
so that's where I've started volunteering. And when I was going through depression and I wanted to get back out into the community, but it's been a long time since I was able to get out to the community. So my one therapist suggested I volunteer at a retirement home. And I went there thinking that I'm going to help these people. And it turned out they were helping me. You see, all they really wanted was some love and attention. And it turns out that's what I wanted also. And they gave it back to me. So it was unbelievable, like how much of a good feeling it gives you to give of yourself. And that's where I really realized that focusing on others lifted the depression, and it was gone. So no longer focusing just on myself, focus on others, and the depression just started to disappear.
Right. So if I ask you for advice and tips for people who are going through depression, something very difficult, is that your number one tip? Help others, focus on others.
Yeah, focus on others. Number two would be physical exercise. So I traded my depression pills for running shoes. And it sounds odd, and I don't say go out and lift weights and go to the gym. You can do that, but just simply walking every day. I make sure every day I walk for 45 minutes every morning, and just get outside and get some physical exercise. Sunshine really helps, and those three things is get out and be socially interactive, exercise, and sunshine. When you can. It's really hard for people here in Canada because 6 months of the year, it's a lot of times it's dark and gloomy and we don't get the sunshine. But the vitamin D and the sunshine really makes you feel good.
All right. Great. Now, so do you believe that only the person can turn their lives around, or can we as outsiders, to someone, maybe a friend, someone in the families going through something really tough, like really low self-esteem because of, loss of a job, etc., not being able to provide, not being productive, can we actually help some people as outsiders? What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely, you can help as outsiders. And I would say that just don't force something on someone. When someone comes and says, you should do this and you should do that, you want to do the opposite. People will cross their arms and say, I'm not doing that.
Mm.
But if you went to someone and said, wow, you seem like you're really making good progress, and why don't we go for a walk? Is there anything I can do to help you? Or if you ask that person, could you give me a hand? Could you help me do something? Because a lot of times when you're depressed, you feel I'm worthless, I'm no good, I can't do anything, I can't help anyone. But if you ask someone going through that situation, could you give me a hand, at my mother's place, or could you give me a hand at my house this weekend? It gives somebody something to look forward to, and when you feel that you're being of service and helping someone, it really lifts your spirits. So get people involved and ask people for help. And it not only helps you, it helps them. So when you feel like you're giving of yourself and you feel productive, that will lift your spirits and put you
Right.
in a different frame of mind.
Right. I have a question for you. Part of your turnaround is reconnecting with your mother, right? Can you tell us
Yes.
briefly about it?
Yes. So I was speaking in San Diego, California, and I'm sharing this idea with people to clean up your messes and incompletes. And when I went back to the hotel room that night, I thought, I'm speaking of this, but I don't even know what color my mother's eyes are. And so I've tracked her down, and my brother tracked her down, and he had her phone number. And I asked the most difficult question I ever asked in my life, and that was, "What color are your eyes?" And I phoned up my mother and asked her that, and I just it was a difficult call because it's been 40 years since I've seen her. And I called her out of the blue, and I just wanted to know, what color are your eyes, and do you love me? And I wanted to know what kind of music do you like, and do you like funny movies? Those type of things. And so it was really good to speak to her. And that was back in around 2012. And
And you hadn't seen her for over.
since I was 6 years old. So
That was the last time you saw her. You were 6.
yes.
Wow. And you know, that's that to me, that's significant. Of course, we appreciate definitely the reconnection and the anxiety. You know, will she like me? Will she even speak to me, etc. But the question itself, especially for people like us, Asians, Filipinos, everybody's eyes are the same color. Okay, everybody's hair is the same color. So that question, "What color are your eyes?" is something unique to us. It's not a question that we ask, but especially here, in your case, I mean, in your forms in North America, you have to fill out what color your eyes are, right? That never happens here. We never ask anyone that question, and now you're asking your own mother what color her eyes are, when typically we should be knowing. I mean, you know what I mean, right?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And you know, I did not contact her for all those years because out of the fear, being told by my father for my whole life that not even your own mother loves you. And so I never reached out to her. I never contacted her for all those years, thinking
Mm-hmm.
she didn't want anything to do with me.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did contact her, you know what? Nothing bad happened. It was just that fear inside that many of us have that stop us from moving forward and stop us from making the next step. And
Mm-hmm.
if I would have any advice for anyone in that situation, I would say choose love and not fear.
Very powerful. Thank you for sharing that part of your story. Now, there's a photo here that we would like to show, and can you talk about it?
Yes. So this is Bobsy, and Bobsy was the start of the Make-A-Wish Foundation. So a lot of people think I'm not big enough to make a big change in the world. And Bobsy was a 6-year-old boy living in Phoenix, Arizona, and he was diagnosed with terminal leukemia. And his mother was told that he had 3 weeks to live. So when his mother sat at his bedside thinking, this isn't fair, every child should have their dream come true. And as she sat at his bedside, she looked down at Bobsy and said, Bobsy, have you ever thought of what you want to be when you grow up? And he said with a big smile, Mom, I want to be a fireman. She said, let's see if we can make that happen. And so that night when he went to sleep, she went down to the local fire hall and explained her son's situation to the fire chief and said, is there any way possible you could take my son for a ride in a fire truck? And the chief was so touched by the story, he said, we can do better than that. We make the uniforms right here in Phoenix. So if you give us his sizes, we'll make him a real uniform with a real hat, real boots, and make him an honorary fireman for the day. So the next Wednesday, the fire chief showed up at the hospital and went up to Bobsy's hospital room and suited him up in his fire uniform that you see in the picture there and carried him down to the waiting fire truck. And on the way back to the fire hall, he got to help steer the back of the ladder truck, and he had a smile on his face as big as Arizona. And that day he got to ride in the chief's car, an ambulance, and a fire truck, and a police car. He was also interviewed by Fox Television News. And He went on to live 3 months longer than any doctor thought possible, all because someone went out of their way and did everything humanly possible to make his dream come true. And on the night that Bobsey's vital signs were failing, the nurse who believes in hospice, that no one should die alone, remembered the day he was a fireman and called up the fire department and said, "Is there any way possible you could send someone over to say goodbye to Bobsey?" And the chief said, "We can do better than that. I want you to make an announcement on the PA system that when people hear the lights and sirens coming up the road, that there's not a fire, we're just coming to see one of our finest one last time." And they said one more thing, "Open his window." So the trucks came roaring down the road with the lights and sirens on, and they raised that ladder truck up to the 3rd-story window. And 5 firemen and 2 firewomen climbed in his hospital room window. And they all took turns hugging him and rocking him, telling him how much they loved him. And Bobsey opened his eyes and he said, "Chief, am I really a fireman?" And the chief said, "You sure are." And Bobsey smiled and closed his eyes for the last time. And I share that story with everyone for 2 reasons. One is, there isn't one person listening to this tonight that wouldn't do everything humanly possible to make that child's dream come true. And the second is, I think there's a little bit of Bobsey in each and every one of us. There's still a little child inside of us with hopes and dreams and goals and desires that are unfulfilled. And you would do everything humanly possible to make that child's dream come true. So I would ask you, before you go to sleep tonight, to look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, am I doing everything humanly possible to make my dreams come true? You would do it for that child. You deserve it to do it for yourself. And I thank you all for your time this evening.
I don't know how you can tell that story without tearing up. I've been crying the past few minutes listening to the story again. I've heard it before. You yourself told the story before, and I'm hearing it again. And it's making me emotional. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. So thank you for that powerful story. Any final words for people who are struggling, okay, with depression, with injury, with an illness, or a very difficult situation like a difficult marriage, relationship, uh, self-esteem stuff, depression, brain injury? I believe that's very close to your heart. People who have brain injury.
Yeah, I would say you're not stuck. You're just afraid to do what's next. And many of us feel that we're stuck in a bad relationship, a bad job, a bad time in our life. And so often we're just afraid to do what's next. And if you could not give up and just find the courage to just make the next step that you have to do to move forward. And then you'll realize that life will open up and so many amazing things will happen and your life will be amazing.
And that's what you did, right? You just took the next step and then the next step and then the next step.
Yes.
Of course, you knew where you wanted to go. At least you knew you didn't want to be where you were. You believed you could unstuck
Yes.
yourself.
That's right.
Very powerful.
And
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Right.
Thank you.
Any announcements, any pages, FB pages you'd like us to like and follow, any books or webinars coming up?
No, I just did a webinar a week ago. You could go to forrestwillett.com or on Facebook, Forrest Willett. And that's about it. All I would just say is make sure that you love yourself and accept yourself just the way you are, each and every one of you.
All right. And remember, Forrest's books are 12 Hugs to Happiness. It's a children's book. Remember to get 12 hugs a day. He also has Baseballs Don't Bounce. Looks like this. And also Finding Forrest, the latest one. So
Yeah.
once again, Forrest, thank you very much for joining us. It's late. It's now past midnight, your time, and we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today and to share your powerful story to everyone else. I encourage you to share this live stream because you never know whose life this will touch. You know, once that person hears Forrest's story, then maybe another turnaround can happen, another turnaround for the better. So, Forrest, please stay backstage and we'll get back to you. For now, we'll say goodbye
Thank
and thank you very much. That was Forrest Willett, all the way from tiny Ontario, Canada. It's now midnight where he is, but we really appreciate how he has spent time with us. And it's not just, spending time, it's time well spent because he shared with us his own turnaround story and the steps he took to get there. Many powerful statements, stories about moments in his life that led him to where he is today, an international motivational speaker. He focuses a lot on brain injury and turning your life around. He's also an author of 3 books. So congratulations on your success, Forrest. All right. So before I go, let us greet some people, say hello to some people real quick. All right. From Dana Serrano, you're watching. Dana's is saying good night. The topic is interesting. Monica, uh, hello to you. Jan again. Mabin is sharing his thoughts on our quote. Remember our quote, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. Remember to share the live stream as well so you could win our gift. Edna Oriel is watching. Hi, Tita Edna. Maria Teresa Gomez, hello. And Kasaya Grace is also turning in her entry. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. Our team on U-Turn and the new channel, thank you very much. We'll see everyone again on Monday for another turnaround story. And so stay safe and stay tuned. Bye.